also ask you about an article you co-wrote yesterday, just about your headline, Dissenters to the Government's Pandemic Policies. And this really is just about the true extent of the government's effort to basically of their suppression strategies and those behind them. Tell us the point you were making in this article.
The point I'm making, which I think is wider, it's not about me, and when I wrote about this, I thought about people like yourself, Julia, is the government has a suppression strategy. When you think you have misinformation, you should fight that with information, not the government strategy, which was, for instance, potentially Matt Hancock to ring up his mate Nick Clegg and go, Facebook, we need you to shut down these people. Now, if that's happening in a democracy, that is scandalous. And it makes us anti-democratic.
Yeah, I mean, this is the key thing. Some of this has emerged from Matt Hancock's book, his memoirs, along with Isabel Oakeshott. She's written some interesting articles about the information that she saw in messages about what was really going on in government. But this willingness to sort of shut down things, and we've seen with what's come out of Twitter from Elon Musk now, the willingness to sort of shut down dissent in political world. But this is it. It wasn't just against sort of flat earthers or people just coming up with QAnon-style conspiracy theories. This was against journalists asking legitimate questions, like myself and many others, and it was against scientists like yourself and your colleagues and those others who signed the Great Barrington Declaration, people like Jay Bhattacharya and others, who actually had completely scientifically based questions and articles and online basically being suppressed, basically being, it can be there, but no one's going to see it, to try and claiming that this was COVID disinformation, when actually, as we've seen with advice on masks, 1 week, in 2020, it was you mustn't wear masks. The next week it was you must, and no one's allowed to say any different, and where COVID came from. And the rules changed every few months, did they not? And yet people who just questioned the general narrative, including people like yourself who've got a very strong scientific background for doing so, were basically being censored, weren't you?
Yeah, and suppressed and attacked in all sorts of different angles. But let's be clear, what we're talking about is if you take an evidence-based approach, you basically will be considered as disinformation. Now, I've taken that approach for 25 years, had lots of attacks, but in the long run, actually, when you come back to it, we need some high-quality evidence. How can you argue with this? This comes down to if Matt Hancock disagreed with you, that was considered misinformation, absurd, and had to be shut down. Now, in the US, Fauci, who's the director of NIH, Biden and Trump's advisor, has been
he was the Chris Whitty or the Patrick Vallance of the American government administration.
All of them, under subpoena, have had to depose all of the issues that they've had with these social media accounts, what their emails have had to be made available. So in this country, what I'm calling for is that ministers should be accountable and transparent. And all of their emails, all of their meetings, all of their minutes should be in the public domain to understand what is going on.
Yeah. I mean, again, one of the things that came out with Fauci was that his private emails advising colleagues, don't wear masks. They definitely don't work. The virus is much smaller. Don't wear masks. A month later, he's telling everyone you have to wear masks, and there's a mandate, and people are getting fined for wearing masks. And this is the thing: we know that behind the scenes, the information was completely different from what they were telling us publicly.
And that's what it says in the book: is that in the background, the evidence and the information was saying these don't work, and therefore what was happening apparently, because Dominic Cummings really liked the idea, we definitely had to have these masks, knowing that they didn't work, but they were a good messaging for the public. Now again, that's completely absurd in terms of a healthcare decision-making mode. Yeah. And we have to make sure this is sorted, because there's nothing to stop this happening again, because that seems to be in the modus operandi of me. More of the same next time, please.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're all going to be fighting on that ground again until they admit that what they did was